We begin today the Gemara on Daf Lamed Tes Lamed Aleph, 8 lines down from the top of the Yomad. The Gemara here is going to continue discussing the halacha of arla and chutz la'aretz. The fruits that grow on a tree for the first 3 years are arla. So there were a few opinions before in the Gemara. What's the source or what is the halacha with arla and chutz la'aretz? There was one opinion that the isser of arla and chutz la'aretz is min ha'Torah. Then there was another opinion that it's a halacha l'Moshe miSinai. And the third opinion was that it's halacha medina, which means it's only aser midrabanan. Another thing the Gemara discussed was that the isser of arla and chutz la'aretz is only if it's vaday arla. But if it's safik arla, and that includes even if you see a guy that's selling it and it's very possible that he took it from a place that it was arla, it's not going to be aser. The isser safik does not apply in chutz la'aretz. And the Gemara even said furthermore that the Amoraim, their custom was that one would bring and would not tell the other it's arla, and the same the other would do for his friend. And like this, they ate from what they had without, as long as you don't know for sure that it was taken from an arla tree, it's mutter and chutz la'aretz. So here the Gemara brings a continuation on this discussion and actually another opinion that was even more lenient, that said really that there's no arla and chutz la'aretz at all. Amri Charifi de Pumbedisa. The sharp individuals of Pumbedisa said, now she says this was Ephah and Avimi that were the children of Rachba. They lived in Pumbedisa. And they said, Ein arla b'chutz la'aretz. There's no isser of arla at all in chutz la'aretz. Shalcha Rav Yehuda l'kamed Rav Yochanan. Rav Yehuda sent this that they said to Rav Yochanan. So Shalach lei, Rav Yochanan sent back and said the halacha as follows. We had it already before. Rav Yochanan is the one that says that in chutz la'aretz, arla is aser. And there's a halacha l'Moshe miSinai for that. So Rav Yochanan sent back that the halacha is as follows. Stoim speike, keep quiet the fact that safik arla and chutz la'aretz is mutter, even though it is mutter, but you should not say this publicly to people. And Rashi brings an example for this. You have in the Gemara in the Darim a similar thing where Rav Huna bar Chinana wanted to say a certain drasha about something and say a certain halacha, and he was told that you should not say it because if you're going to say this halacha, people may come to be mekel. The moment you say that safik arla is mutter, people might think, oh, that means that arla is not really such an issue at all. Another thing he said, va'abed vada'a, if you have vaday arla in your hands, destroy it. And the chiddush of what he was saying is, even though you could really use this vaday arla as well, like I mentioned before, as long as one person gives it to another and he doesn't know that it's vaday arla, it would be mutter as well. Even that is included in safik arla. But nevertheless, he said, be machmer and destroy this vaday arla. And also v'hachrez al peiresein, and go and announce regarding those peiris that are from arla, those people that are lenient about this, shetun and geniza, that these fruits should be buried and shouldn't use any of these fruits. And then he added v'chola oimer ein arla b'chutz la'aretz. Whoever says that the isser of arla does not apply at all in chutz la'aretz, like the opinion brought before here, lo yeheloi nin v'nechet, you should not have a great grandchild or even a grandchild, mashlich chevel b'geirel b'kal Hashem. A rope that comes out from this person within the congregation of Yidden. It's an expression regarding the descendants of a person. So he was very, very much opposed to this opinion that there's no arla and chutz la'aretz. So the Gemara here brings, but it's not stam anybody that said this. This was Ephah and Avimi of Pumbedisa that said so. They must have had a source. V'ino kaman savrua. Who was their opinion when they said that there's no arla and chutz la'aretz? Says the Gemara, Kihad Tanya. The source was, like we learned in the Braise, Rabbi Laza ben Rabbi Yesi Omer, Mishom Rabbi Yesi ben Durmska, Sha'ama Mishom Rabbi Yesi Aglili, Sha'ama Mishom Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Sha'ama Mishom Rabbi Eliezer Agadol. So here the Gemara is tracing back exactly. It goes all the way back to Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, which in the Mishnah is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes. So he said, Ein arla b'chutz la'aretz. The isser of arla does not apply at all in chutz la'aretz. Okay, so that was their source. So what this Gemara asks, there's no arla at all in chutz la'aretz. Rabbi Eliezer himself was the one that said in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer oimer af hachodosh. In the Mishnah it said that arla and kalayim are isurim that apply in chutz la'aretz, and on that Rabbi Eliezer added not only arla and kalayim but also chodosh. So that means that he agreed to the fact that arla does apply in chutz la'aretz. And says the Gemara, according to this opinion here, you're going to have to say tni chodosh. Rabbi Eliezer is saying that only Chadash, the Isser of Chadash applies in Chutz la'aretz, but Arla does not. So he's arguing on the Tanakama in 2 points. He's saying that Arla does not apply in Chutz la'aretz, but the Isser of Chadash does apply in Chutz la'aretz. And the reason why specifically by Chadash he says it does apply, so Rashi brings there, because we had before in the Gemara, it says Moish Vaisechem. And he translates, Moish Vaisechem means in all your dwellings, wherever you live. It doesn't say that term regarding Arla. And he doesn't hold of the halacha l'Moshe Sinai, and not even of a issa midrabanan. So therefore, according to this version, Rabbi Eliezer held that there's no issa of Arla and chutz la'aretz at all. Amar Abasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Arla b'chutz la'aretz halacha l'Moshe Sinai. The issa of Arla and chutz la'aretz is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. We had this already quoted before in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Now, Amalei Rab Zei Rabasi. So Rab Zei asks Rabasi about this, but Vatanya, but it should be Vatnan. This is a Mishnah quoted before already. It says in the Mishnah, Safik Arla ba'aretz aser. If you have a suffix of fruits, whether it comes from a tree of Arla or not, so in Eretz Yisrael it'll be aser. Just like every isim in Atayra. Whenever there's a suffix, it's aser. But if it's Besurya, which does not have the halacha of Eretz Yisrael according to the Tana of this Mishnah, so then mutter, it'll be mutter. So the question over here is, but if it's a halacha l'Moshe Sinai that Arla is aser, so shouldn't we be machmer regarding a halacha l'Moshe Sinai for a suffix as well? Why are we saying that if it's a suffix in Surya that it would be mutter? So he didn't know what to answer at the first, in the beginning. Ishtaimim kisha chada. So for a moment or for an hour, he was astounded or he was quiet. He didn't answer this question, and then but he answered Amalei. So Rabasi answered, Eime, Kach, you should say, Kach Nemar, this is how the halacha l'Moshe Sinai itself was said. Sveika mutter, that Safik Arla, fruits that come from trees and you're not sure which tree it comes from, mutter, that's mutter. And again, the Chiddush here regarding Safik mutter is not only a regular kind of Safik, like a 50-50 kind of Safik, even in a situation where it's very likely that it comes from Arla, you see the guy took it from a property that there's a lot of Arla trees, it's still going to be mutter. That's what the halacha l'Moshe Sinai itself was saying. And that's the way it was given. And vada aser. And the vadai of the halacha l'Moshe Sinai will be aser. That's the pshat that most Mefarshim say here saying the Gemara. The halacha l'Moshe Sinai itself was given in such a way to teach this halacha that safek is mutter. Okay, this is the conclusion of the Gemara regarding Arla. Now the Gemara goes on and brings another statement that Rabbi said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan regarding Kalayim and Chutz La'aretz. So Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Loikin ala Kalayim Dvar Torah. One that has enough from Kalayim, so he gets Malchus on Kalayim Minat Torah. Even in Chutz La'aretz. Amalei Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi. So Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi asks on this, how could you say that you get Malchus for Kalayim and Chutz La'aretz, but for Anan Tanan? In that same Mishnah just quoted before, it says, HaKalayim Divrei Seifrim, that Kalayim out of Eretz Yisrael is just the Isra B'Darabbanan, but there's no Malchus for this. And says the Gemara, it depends what kind of Kalayim. As we'll see here in the continuation of the Gemara, there are a few different kinds of Kalayim. So Lekashe, it's not a contradiction, Kan B'Klaya Kerem. There's the Kalayim when you're mixing other kinds of things in a vineyard. Right? Let's say you're planting in a vineyard grain or other things. So when you mix in a vineyard, that kind of a Kalayim is actually Aser Minat Torah in Chutz La'aretz. And you get Malchus. And the Gemara is soon going to bring the source from the Pasuk. And Kan Bar Kova Se'ilan. And here it's speaking about, sorry, one second, I may have confused this. Let me see again. Yeah, one second. Kan in Klaya Kerem. Klaya Kerem is not Aser in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, Klaya Kerem is only in Eretz Yisrael. And Kan Bar Kova Se'ilan, grafting trees, when you take two branches of a tree and you graft them together, that's the kind of Klayim which is going to be Aser in Chutz La'aretz, Minat Torah, and you get Malchus on it. Here the Gemara brings the source right away from we see from the Pasuk. Kiddush, and this is like Shmuel learned that from the Pasuk. Shmuel says, this is here one of the psukim where it speaks about Klayim. The Pasuk says, it starts off saying, Es chukaisai tishmairu, you should keep my statutes. What does this mean? Chukim shel chakakti l'cha kvar. This refers to chukim that there was already before Matan Torah, before the Eibishter gives the Yidden the Torah. Meaning that what it says over here, these Yisurim, was already applies before, even for the Bnei Noach. And what are those Yisurim? Behem tucha le'sarbia klayim. Don't crossbreed animals. And satcha le'sizra. And in your field, you shouldn't plant, the Pasuk continues, satcha le'sizra kilayim. You shouldn't plant kilayim in your field. So what's the comparison here? Ma behemtecha baharba. Just like the issa that is speaking about regarding animals is not to have different animals to be with each other. Af satcha, so too in your property baharkova. It's similar to an animal. When you're having a crossbreed of different animals, it's in the same similar kind of way. When a person takes a branch of one tree and a branch of another tree, and he grafts them together. So that's similar to the harbah of animals, and this is a kind of issa that actually applies even to bnei noach. Rashi says that it's from here, from this pasuk, that we see that it was already from before. Now we compare these two, and we say another point. Uma behemtecha, just like regarding the crossbreeding of animals, noyig bein baretz bein b'chutz la'aretz. That's an issa that applies both in Eretz Yisrael and out of Eretz Yisrael. And the reason is based on the rule that we had before, that any mitzvah that's not in the karka applies in Eretz Yisrael and out of Eretz Yisrael. So the crossbreeding of the animals applies in Chutz La'aretz as well. So here, when the pasuk says together with this, the Isser of Klayim, Av Satcha, Noyig Bein Ba'aretz, Bein B'chutz La'aretz. So too when it comes over here to the Isser of Klayim, and we're speaking specifically about the Isser of Klayim that's similar to the harbah of animals. When you graft two branches of the trees together, that Isser applies both in Eretz Yisrael and in Chutz La'aretz. That's what we learn from here. And this is what Rabbi Yochanan meant when he said that there is malchus for kalayim even in Chutz La'aretz. This is the kind of kalayim he was talking about. Correct, but because it says it together with behemoth, so we compare it to the behemoth to say that this is an exception, that this Isser of karka is like behemoth, which applies to Chutz La'aretz. But now the Gemara points out there's another diak here in the pasuk that actually indicates that this Isser is only in Eretz Yisrael. Ve'ela haksiv sotcha. It doesn't just say that leisar bia kalayim b'sadeh, but it says sotcha, your field. What's the emphasis of yours? Now yours, Rashi here says, is an indication that it's talking dafka about Eretz Yisrael, because that's what the Eibishter gave Yidden as a gift, Menas Shamayim, that it's your field. So it's mashma only in Eretz Yisrael. And says this is the Gemara, Hahu lemutei zrayim shebuchutz la'aretz. What the pasuk Sotcha is coming to say is that the Isser of the Klayim in the Zrayim, and Rashi here says that the Lashon of the Gemara, lemutei zrayim, refers specifically to the Klaya Kerem. When a person plants in a vineyard other species, that kind of Klayim is going to be excluded, that it's not Asr and Chutz La'aretz, and it's only Asr and Chutz La'aretz midrabanan. Okay, Taisus discusses why Rashi says Dafka Klai Zrayim, but or Klai Kerem. That's the Taich of here the Gemara. Going back to the point we said before that Sotcha is excluding Klai Kerem. It's only Midrabanan and Chutz La'aretz. The Gemara brings in certain incidents that happen about this regarding Klai and Chutz La'aretz. Rav Chanan v'Ravanan have a shakli v'az liborche. They went together on the way. On their way, they noticed a certain individual, the Kazara Zrayim Bahadi Adadi, that he's planting different seeds together. Now, this was not grafting trees together, which is Asam in Atayr and Chutz La'aretz, according to what it said here. This is not the Klayim in a vineyard, Klaya Kerem, but this is the other seeds that he was planting together. So this is really a third category of Klayim. So he saw this person planting these seeds together. Amalei. So he said to his friend, Neisi Mar Neshamte, let's go and put him into a cherem for being over on this Isser of Kalayim and Chutz La'aretz. Amalei, so he answered him, Loi Chavriso, this halacha of Kalayim are not clear to you. If you would know this halacha of Kalayim, you would know that what he's doing is not Asr. The Gemara is soon going to explain. V'su Chazdiu Lahu Gavre. Another incident was they saw this individual, the Kazara Chiti Usa'ari Bei Gufni, that he was going and planting wheat and barley in a vineyard. So this is already Klayim in a Kerem, in a vineyard, which we said before is Asam D'Rabbanan. So now Amalei Neisim Mar Neshamte. Let's put this person into Cherem for being over on the Isam D'Rabbanan. It clearly said in the Mishnah that Klai HaKerem is Asam D'Rabbanan. Amalei, again he said to him, Loit Saharisu. The halacha is still not clear to you, like Tzaharisu means it's not shining to you like the sun shines in the afternoon. And he explained to him as follows: L'chayda over here, this is the Klayim and the Kerem that we just said is Aser. But he said, L'kaimala and Rabbi Yeshia. Do we not hold like the opinion of Rabbi Yeshia? When is the Klayim Aser in the vineyard? The B'chlal, Rabbi Yeshia said this regarding all Klayim. The Amar, he said, Ad sheyizra chita usa'ira v'chartzam b'mapelis yad. The Isser minatayra of Kalayim is not when you already have the vineyard planted and then you're coming afterwards and planting grain over there. The Isser of Kalayim is that right in the beginning, when you're planting, you take a seed from the wheat and then from the barley and from the grape seed, and b'mapelis yad, you throw it all together into the ground. That's the Kalayim. Has to be when you plant, and has to be all three together. So Rashi here brings, because it says in the pasuk, Leisizra karmocha klaim. Leisizra means when you plant it. You're planting it all together. And Taisus, the Rishonim add, how do you know that it has to be all three? wheat, barley, and the vineyard, because it says Sirzra karmacha, don't plant your vineyard kilayim. Kilayim means that there's another two species that you're mixing together besides the karmacha. There's karmacha and another two, chitim and sairim. That's when there's the iser minatayra. So therefore over here, the whole iser only applies in this way. But what was this person doing? He had already a kerem, and he went and he was planting wheat and barley over there in his existing vineyards. Over there, the Issa does not apply. The Gemara now brings, in connection to this, what did we just say? That in Chutz La'aretz, when a person takes just seeds and plants them together, so he told him that no, don't put them into Chayim, there's no Issa for this. The Gemara brings from a Maida, Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef himself also, Ma'arev Bizrani, he mixed different seeds, Vizara, and he planted them together. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye asked Rav Yosef, how could you do this? But va'anan tanan, ha-kilayim edivrei seifrim, that there's the issa of kilayim midrabanan. Amalei, so he answered him, loy kashye, kam beklaya kerem. That Mishnah was referring to kilayim in the vineyard. That's asam midrabanan in chutz la'aretz. Kam beklay zroyim. But if you take different seeds and you mix them together and you plant them, there's no issa. So Rashi says the reason why Chachamim made a distinction is because Klaya Kerem is much more chomer, it's much more severe, because the pasuk uses there the term pentikdash, that the whole thing becomes asa bahana, and it doesn't say that regarding regular Klai Zraim. So Chachamim were not geyser the isar of Klayim b'chlal and chutz la'aretz. Oh, here the Gemara spells out the Klaya Kerem the be'eretz asurim b'hana. So the Klaya Kerem that in Eretz Yisrael is asa b'hana. So again, as I just said, Rashi says that it's based on pentikdash, that makes it asa b'hana. So b'chutz la'aretz nami gazer b'rabbanan. So in chutz la'aretz Rabbanan decreed that it should also be asa. Klai Zram the be'eretz lo yasiri b'hana. But the Klai Zram, other seeds that you mix together in Eretz Yisrael, it's also asa, but not b'hana. So b'chutz la'aretz nami gazer b'rabbanan. So Rabbanan were not geyser in chutz la'aretz. But then the Gemara says, Hada Amar Rav Yosef. Then Rav Yosef said, Lav Milsi Damri. This that I said is not true, because he learned out from what Rav did. The Rav Zora Ginsa de Beirav. Rav planted a garden for the yeshiva students that were learning there by him. And how did he plant it? Different species, mishari. They were planted in different rows. He didn't mix the vegetables together. He planted them in different patches or on different rows. So it seems that even in Chutz La'aretz, where Rav was in Bavel and he was planting, he kept the different species separately. Even this is Klai Zraim, this is not on a vineyard, and he still did not want to mix. My time, Lav Mishum Iruvi isn't the reason. Again, Lav Mishum Eruv Iruvi Kalayim. He didn't want to mix different species of Kalayim. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye said to Rav Yosef, no, there's no raya from Rav that this kind of Kalayim is also in Chutz La'aretz. Bishloime Iyashminon. Arba al Arba Ruchais Haruga. If we wouldn't see that what Rav did was that he planted the different species on 4 different corners of the property, and va'achas b'emtza, and then another type he planted in the center. So Rashi says when it comes to Kalayim, you have to leave proper space in between. It's not just enough to plant different rows, but you have to leave proper space in between them so they shouldn't get any nourishment from one another in the shirashim. Right, this is the way the Gemara describes it in Shabbos. So then, Shapir. Then that would be a good raya that Rav held that this Klayim applies even in Chutz La'aretz. But Elohacha over here, the reason why he planted different rows, and they were right near each other, he just put them in rows, Mishum Noi, it's just for the beauty of the field. V'inami, or practically, Mishum Tirche de Shamehi, for the servant that goes out to pick the fruits or the vegetables to come and serve the students, that if you ask him, go get squash, he should know where the squash is, he should know where the cucumbers are, where the tomato, he should know where everything is, not have to go and look in different places. But it's nothing to do with Kalayim. He only did that for practical reasons. Okay, so the conclusion of the Gemara is that in Klayim Chutz La'aretz there are 3 different things. There's the Klayim, which is grafting trees, which is asam in Atayra. There's the Klaya Kerem in a vineyard, which is asam in the Rabbanon. And then there's the Klayim of Zrayim, mixing other seeds, B'chlal, which the Chachamim did not ask. Rav Yosef himself planted these seeds together, even in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, we continue here. The Mishnah, this is the last Mishnah here of this. No, it's not the last Mishnah, actually. There's one more Mishnah. But okay, towards the end of the Pedic here. So because we spoke about different mitzvahs before, so this Mishnah goes on to speak about the power of the fulfillment of a mitzvah b'chlal. Sagt Heilige Mishnah, koloise mitzvah achas, a person that fulfills one mitzvah, metivin loy, the Eibusha does good for him in this world, umarichen loy yomov, and he has long life, v'noichel es haaretz, and he inherits the land, which refers to Olam Haba. The person that does not fulfill one mitzvah, ein metiven loy, the Eibishter does not do good for him. Ve'ein marichen lo yamav, he does not have a long life. Ve'ein anoichel asaret, and will not have olam haba. So the Gemara will explain exactly what this Mishnah here is saying. You do one mitzvah, so then you get schar in this world, and you get schar in olam haba. What is the Gemara saying here? The Gemara starts with a contradiction. There's a contradiction on what it says in our Mishnah. One of the points that we see from our Mishnah is that when you fulfill a mitzvah, you get not only olam haba, but you also get schar in this world. But the question is, from the famous Mishnah, we say every morning, the following are the things, the mitzvahs, that a person eats the fruits, he gets schar in this world, but the principle, the main part of the reward the person gets, and the following mitzvahs, which is connected kulam, which is corresponding, or it's as good as all of them. So you see over here that it's specifically these mitzvahs that you eat Perisayim by Lamaza. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda, Hachi Kamar. This is how you have to understand the pshat in our Mishnah here. Going back to our Mishnah, what it's saying is, Kol ha'oiseh mitzvah achas yiseira al zechi yosov. If a person fulfills one mitzvah that's more, more of than all the zechuyos that he has, then metivim loy. Then the Eibishter does good for him over here in this world. And v'doime k'mishu mekayim kol ha'Torah kula. And it's as if he fulfilled the entire Torah. In other words, what this means is that a person that has half mitzvahs and half avedis, so it's equal. So if a person does one mitzvah that's extra, so now he has one more mitzvah of zechuyos, more than his avedis, so then the Eibishter does good for him in this world. That's what our Mishnah over here was saying. So says the Gemara, if that's the pshat in our Mishnah, so meklal, so from this I could understand, the Hanoch afilu b'chade nami. Does that mean that when it comes to the Mishnah that we quoted from Elu Dvarim, does that mean that over there, even if a person does just one mitzvah, over there, even if he has all Reiv Averis, but he just says one of mitzvah, for example, Kibbud Aveim or Gemilas Chasadim, that just that one mitzvah, he'll have already schar and Olam Hazan and Olam Haba. So the Gemara says, how could that be? How could it be that if he's full of Averis and just one mitzvah gives him all this schar? Rav Shmaya, so Rav Shmaya says, no, the pshat over there in that Mishnah is, it's teaching you, Shem Hoysa Shkula Machras, that over there, if his mitzvahs and Averis are still equal, but one of those mitzvahs that he has is from the list that it says there in that Mishnah, Kibbud Aveim and so on. So that even if it's equal, then it's going to tip, it's going to be Machras. It'll tip the scale as if he has more mitzvahs than Averis. One second, this is going on the continuation of the Gemara. Okay, but first let me just clarify again the answer of the Gemara. So in our Mishnah, what it's saying is that when it comes to any mitzvah, if you do one mitzvah that's more than the equal zechuyos and averis, so then that extra mitzvah that tips the scale, so you get good Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba and so on. The Mishnah over there, this is Masechta Peah, the Mishnah we say every day, Elu Dvarim is saying that even if it's equal, that nevertheless, if one of those mitzvahs is from those list of mitzvahs, so then it's machriya. That itself is machriya, the scale of the mitzvahs. Okay, Taisus over here brings that there's actually another point that the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah that the Eibishter is mata klape chesed, and this is regarding all mitzvahs. So Taisus here says that that Gemara there is saying that a person will be considered to be like a Beinani, that even if you have equal amount of mitzvahs, the Eibishter. Okay, look at Taisus over there. Okay, let's go weiter in the Gemara. Sagt the Gemara weiter. V'chol ha'isa mitzvah achas yiseire al zuchayasav metivin loy. Is this true, what it said here in our mitzvah, our Mishnah that is, that if you have one mitzvah extra, more than the 50-50 of his chuyos and averis, that then the Eibishter does good for him even here in this world, in Olam Hazeh. But V'ramino, I'll ask you a contradiction from what it says in the Braisa. Kol shes chuyosav merubim avinosav, a person that has more chuyos, more mitzvahs than averis, meiriyan loy. So then what happens is the Eibishter gives him hardship over here in this world, to such an extent that you look at the life of this person and it will seem to you like this person burnt the entire Torah and he didn't leave over one letter of the Torah that he didn't burn. Right? The Eibusha gives him over here hardship in this world, and the reason is, Rashi says, because the person in this world, the suffering he has here is he gets rid of those avedas that he has, and then when he comes into Olam Haba, he's totally already cleansed, and he can go straight and to get a complete schar in Olam Haba. On the other hand, v'chol shavinoisav merubin, a person that has more sins, mizchuyosav, more sins than his mitzvahs, so then mitivin loy, the Eibusha gives him good life, she gives him good days over here in this world. And v'daime, and you look at the life of this individual, it may seem kimishikim kol ha'Torah kula. He fulfilled everything in Torah, v'lechisar isachas mimena, and he didn't miss one letter from this. And you see over here that this individual, it looks like he's having a good life in this world, but why is the Eibusha doing this? To give him the good in this world, and then when it comes to Olam Haba over there, the Eibusha just tighted him. The Eibusha pushes him away. Then he gets the einish for all the averis that he did. So what do we see over here from this braisa? That the reward that there comes for the mitzvahs is not in this world. Adarabah, in this world, the Eibusha can cause a person suffering, and why? Because the shleimus of the schar is only in Olam Haba. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, Masnisin, in our Mishnah as well, the pshat is, when it said in our Mishnah, that Metivin loy, that the Eibusha does good for him in our world, what it means is, the Avdin lei yoim tav, that the Eibusha over here, in this world, prepares for him a good day. That's how Rashi teaches our Gemara. Avdin lei, the Eibusha gives him over here, just like it said in the Braisa, that in this world, the Eibusha gives a person things that are hardships and suffering, and that's really a preparation for a good day in the world to come. That's what our Mishnah meant when it said Mativin Lo in our world. It's preparing a good day, but not necessarily good in this world. And also, V'yoim Bish, on the other hand, when it said in the end of the Mishnah, that Ein Mativin Lo, what that means is that a person will have a good life in this world, and it's really preparing for him the negative, the punishment that's going to come in the world to come. That's how you have to understand our Mishnah. So it fits, it's exactly what it's saying in the Braisa. That's Rashi's pshat in this Gemara. Taisus, however, disagrees. Taisus says that the Lashon of the Gemara means something else. Yom Tav and Yom Bish means that when it says here in this Braisa, that the Eibusha gives a person suffering in this world, and really it's to prepare him in the world to come, it just means one day. It doesn't mean his whole lifetime. It means that a person goes through a certain hardship in the world, Yom Tav, or Yom Bish, that is, one negative day in this world, and that negative day is preparing for him the good in the world to come. And Yom Tav also means it's one day that this Rasha has a good day, or maybe a good day, a good year, one time period that he has good, and that prepares to him the world to come. But it doesn't mean that his entire lifetime is going to be in this way. So therefore, it's not a contradiction to our Mishnah that says that a person could still get schar in this world. That's Taisus' pshat. The Gemara brings another pshat. Rava says, Hamani Rabbi Yaakov. This braisa here that says that a person suffers in this world and he gets only the shleimus of the schar, only in Olam Haba, that braisa says Rabbi Yaakov. The Amar Rabbi Yaakov said, Schar mitzvah bahai al meleke. There is no schar in this world. And what Rabbi Yaakov is saying is, there's no level of schar in this world, not the main schar, not any schar at all. The whole schar is only in Olam Haba. The Tanya, Rabbi Yaakov said, there's no mitzvah in the Torah where the Torah specifies what its reward is, that the fulfillment of this reward does not depend on Tchias HaMesim, because the reward that it says in the Torah does not refer to this world, but it refers to the time of Tchias HaMesim, Lasad Lavei. By Kibbud Avim it says you'll have long life and the Eibusha will give you good life in this world. Similar good life and in long years. So, what happens in a case where a person's father tells him, Alei lebira, go up to the second floor, go up to on the top, and bring me some birds. He goes up there, and he sees that it's a place where there's a mitzvah of Shalach HaKan. And he sends away the mother, and he takes the baby birds. But then on his returning back to his father, fulfilling this mitzvah, nafal umeis, he falls and he dies. So heichan toivas yamav shalzeh, where is the good life of this person? Veheichan arichas yamav shalzeh, where is the long life of this individual? He just did two mitzvahs in one that the Torah promises good and long life. Ella, says Rabbi Yaakov, l'man yitav l'cha lo'elam shekulei tov. What's the real goodness in the world that's all good and lasad lavei? In the world to come, when it's long forever. That's what Rabbi Yaakov proved, and this is who the Brisa was going according to. But the Mishnah here that says that Mativ and Loy in this world, the Mishnah of Elu Devarim, Shadam Meichel Perisein Bailam Hazeh, that says that a person does get schar in this world, that's arguing with Rabbi Yaakov. That says that a person can get schar in this world. That's the machlokes here. There's a very arichas gesicha from the Rebbe about this Gemara, which is also happens to be the conclusion of Masechta Chulin. So there's a hadran on Masechta Chulin where the Rebbe explains this whole inyan ba'arichas gedayla. How this applies to ben adam mitzvahs which are ben adam la'makayim, mitzvahs which are ben adam la'chaveiroi. Here, this story that Rabbi Yaakov is saying is a combination of the mitzvah of shluach hakam, which is ben adam la'makayim, and the mitzvah of kibbud aveim, which is a mitzvah which is ben adam la'chaveiroi. The Rebbe speaks about this barichas gedayla regarding this inyan. Okay, it's in Chelik Yutes in Parshas Kiseitze. Okay, let's continue. So the Gemara asks him this: what's Rabbi Yaakov's raya that he's telling you what would happen if? That's how you bring a raya for a pshat and a pasuk when he says what would happen if. Maybe this whole story that he just painted here about the person that his father sent him to go and get these birds and then he fell and died. Maybe this never will happen. The pasuk says that he'll have long life. So how does you know this happened? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov Maisa Chaza. Rabbi Yaakov himself saw this happening, and that's why he asked this question and he explained this. Frek the Gemara, but even when Rabbi Yaakov saw this happening, it doesn't prove anything. Maybe while he was doing this, when he was coming down, he was thinking about an Aveda. And because he was thinking about an Aveda, so therefore his thought in an Aveda caused him to get that punishment that he died. Says the Gemara, that can't be because when a person has a bad thought, the Eibusha does not combine it to a Maisa, and he shouldn't have been got such a punishment just for a bad thought. But that's a thought for a regular Aveda. Maybe he was thinking in his mind to serve Aveda Zareh, and Uksiv, the pasuk says, Lamant faces Beis Yisrael belibam. This is a pasuk about thinking about Avodah Zarah, that Yidden they're caught in an Aveda of thinking Avodah Zarah in their heart, and for that you do get punished. So the Gemara explains, this is actually what Rabbi Yaakov meant to say here. If you're going to say that there's reward for a mitzvah in this world, why would the mitzvah not protect him? That when he's doing the mitzvah, he shouldn't come to think a thought of Avodah Zarah, and therefore he should have been protected by the mitzvah not to think that thought and not to have this punishment to die. So it must be that if this happened to him, we don't know what he was thinking, but even if he was thinking of Avodah Zarah, that means the mitzvah didn't protect him, so that proves that the pshat of the pasuk is not referring to Elam Hazeh. Now the Gemara asks a question on this incident that Rabbi Yaakov saw himself from another angle. Didn't Rabbi Lazar say, Shluchei mitzvah ein nizoikin. A person that's a shliach to do a mitzvah does not get harmed. So how over here could it be? This person is going and doing a mitzvah that he got harmed. Answers the Gemara, Hasam b'hali chasam. Shani. Over there, on his way going to do the mitzvah, then he doesn't get harmed. But over here, it was on his way back. So he was coming down. Because he was on his way back, over here, this klal, that a shliach mitzvah does not get harmed, does not apply. As the Gemara, but v'hamer Rabbi Lazar shluchei mitzvah einen izaykin loy bali chasan v'loy bali b'chazirasan. But Rabbi Lazar clearly said that it doesn't matter whether you're on your way to fulfill the mitzvah or even returning from fulfilling a mitzvah. Either way, a shliach mitzvah does not get harmed. So how did he get harmed over here coming down the ladder? Answers the Gemara, this case was a different story because Sulam Re'ua Hava. This was a shaky, a weak ladder. The Kviya Hazeke, where it's very strong over here, the possibility that he should be damaged. The Kviya Hazeke, even a Shliach Mitzvah, but if he goes to a dangerous place where they are getting harmed there is a normal thing, you can't rely on a nes and say that I'm a Shliach Mitzvah and even I can do things which are miraculous. The Chsev, as we see it says, Vayem Shmuel, Eich Eilech, V'shama Shmuel v'harageni. The Eibusha tells Shmuel to go tell Shaul that he can't be a king anymore, and Shmuel is afraid to go, and he says that Shaul will kill me. So even though he was a Shliach Mitzvah, but because he's going into a danger, he's still afraid that he will be killed. So therefore, you can't apply over here this inyan of Shliach Mitzvah Ein Izakin. Now the Gemara says, based on what Rav Yaakov said, Omer Rav Yosef il Male Darsha Acher Lahai Krok Rav Yaakov Bar Brate, if Acher, which Acher was Elisha ben Avuya, and he was in the beginning from the great Tanoim, he was actually the Rebbe of Rab Meir. But then afterwards, he went away. He fell down and he went away. So if he would have darshan this pasuk here, like Rabbi Yaakov, which was Bar Berate, a nephew of his, Lo Chata, he would have not sinned. So the Gemara explains what happened there. Va'acher Mahi, what's the story about Acher? Iked Amri, there are some that say, Kehai Gavna Chaza. He saw the same incident like Rabbi Yaakov saw, a person that's doing a mitzvah like Shiluach HaKan and Kibbud Aveim, that he should have had long life, and he died right away. And he said, if so, what it says in the Torah is not true. So that's what caused him to have a machshav of apikursis, and he left Torah. But if he would have known what Rabbi Yaakov said, that it refers to the world to come, he wouldn't have had a question. Another opinion here is what happened to Acher. Lishne the chutzpis hameturgemin chaza. He saw the tongue of chutzpis, which was the interpreter that he used to give over the words of Torah. And he saw after he was killed, chutzpis was one of the asara haruge malchus. We say this in Yom Kippur, and he was killed. To have a garerle dover acher, a swine was dragging his tongue on the ground. And Omar, he said, Peh shehipik margolius. The mouth that gave out such pearls of wisdom of Torah, Yelachich Afar, should go and now and be hugging or kissing the earth of the ground. How could would this be the reward for a person that taught this amount of Torah? So nafak chata. This is what caused him to go out and sin. Okay, the Gemara here brings another inyan in connection to this. Rami Rav Tuvi bar Rav Kisne l'Rave. Rav Tuvi bar Rav Kisne asked Rave, Tanan, in our Mishnah we learned, a mitzvah achas, a person that fulfills just one mitzvah. And the Gemara explained before, right? That one mitzvah that tips the scale. Mativin loy, so David does good for him in this world. So now what does it seem from our Mishnah? Also in. If you actively go and do a mitzvah, then the Eibusher does good for you in this world. Lo yasa loy. But if you didn't actively do a mitzvah, then the Eibusher does not give you that reward. But Amini, I'll ask you from what it says in the Braise, Yoshav lo yavar aveda. A person that sits and refrains and holds himself back from doing an aveda. So he's by a passively, he's fulfilling what the Eibusher wants. Noisim lo yischa, kaisa mitzvah. That's a reward like you're fulfilling a mitzvah. So why does our Mishnah use the term which seems like that it has to be an action, and only then Hashem gives you the reward for this? Amalei, that concept that if you're holding back from an aveda, Hassam, that's only kagoin shaba dvar aveda liyadai v'nitzel himena. Only if a person is in a situation where there is an aveda that comes to his place, to his hands, and he has to subdue his Yetzer Hara and fight, so then there's no greater mitzvah than this. It's even greater than an action of a mitzvah, actually. That's what Rashi here says. Our Mishnah was talking about a situation where a person does a mitzvah and just not doing an aveda when there's no temptation. That's not equivalent to doing a mitzvah. But over here, the Braisa was saying when there was a temptation. And Kihad Rab Chanina bar Papi, like the story that happened with Rab Chanina bar Papi, Tavase Hahi Matrunisa, there was this noble woman that was trying to get him to come and do an aveda with her. Omar Milsa, so Rav Chanina bar Papi, to get himself out of this, he said Alacha, she said a name of the Eibusher or something, and his whole body filled with boils, and he made himself look disgusting, that she should not want to be with him. So what happened? Of the Milsa, so apparently she also had some power, so she also said something, and he was healed. So what happened? What did he do? Orak, he ran away, and Tosha Ba'ahu Beibani, and he hid in this bathhouse, which was really a dangerous place, because this bathhouse was the Chiyava Island, Bitrei, Afilibi Yamame, when people walked in, even during the day, and even two people together have a mistaki. They would still get harmed from these shindalas, from the shadim that were there. So that he went to hide over there, and he figured there he's safe, she's not going to come after him. Even though it was a dangerous place, he went to hide it so that she shouldn't have to do an aveda. Now then, Lomachar, afterwards, the next day, he came out from this bathhouse and he survived, he wasn't harmed. Amrulei Rabbanon, Man Notrach. They saw him coming out of this bathhouse. They asked him, who protected you here in this place that we know that there's mazikim here? Amalahu, he said, Shnei Noise Keisa Shamruni Kol Alayla. There were two people that carry the weapons of the Caesar. They stood there and protected me all night. This refers to Malachim. He was protected by Malachim there. Amrulei, the Chachamim said to him, Shema dvar aveda bali yadcha v'nitzalta imenu. Was it possible that there was a dvar aveda here, this situation with this noble woman that came to you, and you ran away from this, and that's why you were saved? The Tanina, because we learned in Abraisa, kol haba dvar aveda liyadai. A person that an aveda comes to him, and he overcomes his yetzara and runs away from it, v'nitzal heimenu, and he's saved from it, he overpowers it, oisen leines. He's such a great thing. It's even greater than doing a mitzvah that he's befitting that the Eibusha should do from a miracle, and that's the miracle that happened over here for him.